Hey everybody, welcome back to We Will Defend, the only show on the internet with Representative Brian Posthumous. Brian, welcome to your own show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day out, finally hitting 70 degrees, and I get to have a conversation with you, so that's always a plus.
The first thing I wanted to talk about is just there's still recovery happening in northern Michigan, and one of your colleagues has been beating that drum about the sort of disaster that took place there with the ice storms, the recovery that's still ongoing, the needs that maybe aren't being met. I just wonder if we could take a moment for the North and get your sort of take on what's happened there and what the state government could do to help, if they could do more, and where that kind of stands today, as a lot of your colleagues are speaking up for that right now.
Well, for those of you that don't know, there was an ice storm in northern Michigan maybe 3 weeks ago now. And it was devastating. It was absolutely devastating.
Bad.
I was actually up in Alpena a couple days ago speaking at their Lincoln Day dinner, and so I was able to see firsthand. Like you drive down the road, and the top third of every tree is broken off and laying on the ground, and so it is absolutely devastating. There were thousands of people without power. There are still people to this day without power, and so it's created an issue. And what I think a lot of people aren't thinking about is the long-term ramifications. This is still going to be an issue for them a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. I mean, think about all of that. All of that timber laying on the forest floor, drying out over a couple of years. Now you have a major wildfire hazard across the entire northern Michigan, and so I think we're going to have to be really careful for that. But anyway, it's devastating. In the House, we passed an emergency budget supplemental to help try to address it, $75 million. So hopefully that has paid some dividends and helps get things back on track up there.
That's through the House? Like that Senate's in their court now, or?
Oh, I think we just passed it out of committee. I don't know that it's been voted on the House floor yet.
Gotcha. But it's being done, and shout out, because as we mentioned, one of the reps, Cam Cavett, who's really been a leader there, he pointed out one of the hearings was this is not, the people up there know these kinds of storms, and they've been through a lot of them, and this isn't something they would be raising the alarm about if it wasn't such a unusually devastating situation.
Right.
So it's good that the budget is being expanded a bit to reflect that. It's good that they're going to get the support they need. And of course, if you're continuing to notice stuff down power lines, all those things, call them in, and we'll keep getting it fixed. But for now, we're with the North. It's warm now, so they can start to heal. And we're hoping it happens soon.
Yep.
All right. Let's talk about this too. So there's been some people who have been flagging the legislature in Michigan right now, saying it's been a slow start. They're saying there's only been a couple bills passed. Not a lot has been moving. What's going on? Is this typical for a legislature, especially a new majority in the legislature like you and the Republicans have, to be moving this way? Would you agree that it's been a slow start? And if so, or if not, why or why not?
So let me say a couple things. First of all, I'm really proud of the accomplishments that we've made in the House of Representatives so far. We came right out of the gate, passed a bipartisan solution to the issues surrounding tipped wage, minimum wage, that whole issue. We addressed that right out of the gate. Immediately moved into road funding. Got all of and we passed a road funding package that didn't increase taxes at all. $3.1 billion in road funding without increasing taxes. We also moved forward with a shutdown prevention plan that is absolutely critical. When Republicans first took control of the House of Representatives back in November, or at least when we won the majority back in November, immediately Senate Democrats started talking about shutting the government down. And in fact, now we have one Senate Democrat running for U.S. Senate here in Michigan, and has publicly acknowledged that if she were serving in the U.S. Senate right now, she would have voted to shut the government down. And so it's a real threat. So we wanted to make sure we passed a government shutdown prevention plan that would ensure politicians can't use our kids' education or public safety or veterans' homes as pawns to be negotiated and over the budget. So really proud of that. We moved into passing our public safety trust fund in order to keep our public safety law enforcement, keep them funded. So I'm really proud of the accomplishments that we've made so far. Directly to your question, you asked if, is this typical of a new legislature or new majority or whatever? And I'd say not necessarily, but it is more typical of divided government, right? Like we have Republicans control the House, Democrats control the Senate and the governor's office. And the reality is when our founders created our government system, the slow machinations of government was like that's a characteristic, it's not a flaw. Like that was done intentionally so that the things that are passed are done so more thoughtfully. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I mean, think of all the hundreds of pieces of bad legislation that we could be passing, right? Like that's not good for anybody. And so it really does ensure that the main priorities are getting done. And now my hope is that the Senate will take up our roads plan, our public safety plan, and pass that government shutdown prevention plan as well.
Wow. Well, good answer. That was supposed to be the tricky question of the episode. But
that's the easy one.
You caught that. That was supposed to be my curveball, but you caught it pretty good and sent it into the rafters. I think like quality over quantity. Pace is a feature. The slow pace is a feature, not a bug. But I think some people are noticing too is that the things that are passing are big. So even if it's moving slow, it's a glacier, right? That's moving across Michigan. So what can people expect next from the glacier? like as we keep moving, just absorbing the biggest political, like first it was the tip wage thing and then it was road funding. Like it just keeps moving through the big political moments of Michigan that have been kind of languishing for the past 5 years. What's next?
Well, so out of the House, I expect we will see a vote on reversing the policy that stripped local governments from control when it comes to solar siting and wind farms, that type of thing. We fundamentally believe that local communities should have more of a say in where big solar farms and wind farms go. So I expect to see a vote on that here coming up soon. I expect to see a vote on our constitutional amendment to require that only U.S. citizens vote in our elections. So we'll have a vote in the House on that relatively soon. And then I think it's going to be, focusing on the budget. It's going to be all budget all the time, trying to make sure the Democrats don't shut our government down.
Yeah. And if for people who don't know, who are some of the folks spearheading those, because those ongoing negotiations really are ongoing. They never stop, right. The budget talks. So who are those people on quote unquote our side, the Republican side in the room for the people of Michigan?
So on the House side, the two people really leading the budget negotiations are our appropriations chair, Representative Ann Bolin, and Speaker of the House, Matt Hall. And they are fighting every day for the working men and women of Michigan. On the Democrat side, it's primarily in the Senate. You have Senator Sarah Anthony. She's from the Lansing area. And then Governor Whitmer and her team is participating in those negotiations as well.
And they're constantly evolving.
Yep.
And so a lot of what you'll see happening, until that budget moves, will have, like, a lot of the legislation now has the budget in mind, if not in its windshield and in its rearview mirror or some periphery. Like the budget is the thing that dominates a lot of what happens in Lansing, as it should. That's your money. It's gone to the government. They should be taking their time figuring out how to spend it well.
Right. And since Governor Whitmer took office, our budget has grown by nearly $30 billion, almost 50% in 7 years. And that's really problematic. And so our thought that's why we focused on we can fix the roads without raising taxes. There's enough money there.
Here's a cool thing, though, about to be a silver lining on the bloat in the budget is it did kind of prove a point, which is that money can't necessarily solve problems. We've seen that just this year. We're really going through that with the education budget, how it ballooned to a very high level, but student performance has cratered. So that it's become very clear that just getting more money into the government, getting more money into programs isn't a way to necessarily solve problems, to help students succeed, to increase public safety, all of those things. What's kind of your view of a good sound budget? Is it going back to the smaller one we used to have before the Democrats had their trifecta, or is it going even further to a smaller budget? How much money do we need, and where should we be putting it? I know it's a big question, but I think you're warmed up and ready for it.
Well, so that goes to the heart of a foundational question. What is the role of government? What should the role be that the government plays? And the bigger role that it plays, the more money that it costs. And as long as we have government involvement in every aspect and facet of our lives, it's going to require a bigger government to do that, and that needs to be funded. My view is we should have a smaller government, and that allows people to live their lives, allows businesses to run their company, and provide jobs to the their local community. My view is that we need a smaller government to get government out of the way for people to live their lives and for businesses to thrive. And so if you have a smaller government, then you can reduce the scope of it. Now, I think it was Ronald Reagan that said there's nothing so permanent as a temporary government program.
Right.
And so there's a lot of reality to that, because once a program is put in place, now you have stakeholders with a vested interest in continuing that. And so that's one of the problems that you typically see in government is you create a program that to fix an issue, maybe that issue gets fixed. Well, there are people that want to keep getting that money, and so it's hard to get rid of it. What I would say, I think a good starting point in my mind is we look at, all right, what was the size of the last budget that Governor Snyder from Governor Snyder's term, and I think it was $28 billion less than what Governor Whitmer proposed. So I'm not doing math on the top.
I'll look it up.
So
I'll look it up.
86 billion minus 28 billion, whatever that is. What is that? 58 billion. So
very close to it. You're talking to two history majors here, folks.
Well, I was an ag business major, not a math
right.
major.
Sorry, you were a business major.
But anyway, so it's somewhere around $58 billion, and so my view is we go back to that budget and then we adjust it for inflation. If we had
$54.5 billion,
okay,
was the last.
All right, so it's gone up by $32 billion then, because the governor's proposed budget, if you include her road plan, is $86 billion. And so my view is you go back to the $54 billion budget from Governor Snyder and you say, okay, if we were to just adjust this for inflation, what would that total be? I don't know what that is. My guess is it's somewhere around $75 billion, give or take.
A lot less than 86.
And so my view is, in 2017 and 2018, Michigan was doing a lot better than it is today. So if it was doing a lot better than it is today with that size of a government, maybe that's where we should start and then kind of figure it out from there.
Yeah. I mean, we've been around enough now to study our own history, study our own analytics a little bit, and maybe lean into what's working over what's struggling. But to your point before, is there a kind of Indiana Jones running from the big boulder thing that the Democratic Party maybe has created for themselves, where the checks have to keep getting bigger, the budgets have to keep getting bigger because their platform relies on this sort of expansionist mindset for government? Do you think they're in that boat, and do you think they're about to get squished?
So yes and no. I think I think a lot of times when people view that, they look at it from the standpoint of like, for example, the federal government. The federal government is in that issue, right? Because we have a $36 trillion debt, and that $36 trillion debt keeps getting bigger every year, and the deficit that keeps getting added every year continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so it's a snowball that is chasing us down a hill, similar to Indiana Jones. The benefit that we have in Michigan is our Constitution requires that we have a balanced budget. So we don't have a debt on our general fund. Now we do have pension debt on like liabilities from that standpoint, but that's a different conversation. And so we're not necessarily being chased by this bankruptcy situation like the issue that we could have at the federal government, but the challenge that the Democrats have is they continue to put out these promises that we're gonna send money over here to fix this issue, we're gonna send money over here to fix this issue, and the cost continues to go up and up and up, but the situation doesn't get solved. Right, like for example, Governor Whitmer took out, I think, an $8 billion bond or four. I don't remember the exact numbers. So, but it was several $billion in debt in order to put that money toward our roads. But our roads are still terrible, and so when you're just throwing money at problems, hoping that it comes with a solution, and then that solution doesn't come, you're left with this expectation of more and more money without actually fixing the problem. And so that is a problem that I think the Democrats are facing, and the population and voters are starting to realize that.
Yeah, it's a big old wheel of money is kind of all it's turned into, unfortunately. Maybe that's all it ever was, but I hope not. It seems like it was a little different back in the day, but yeah, it's only millionaires in Washington now. And then the rest of us, 'cause
right.
we ain't that.
That's true.
But no, it is fascinating, and it does seem like we're in an era where people want smaller government, people want less spending, people want their money in their pocket instead of the government's. That was certainly true last November with the presidential election. Do you still kind of see that wind blowing and powering the country's ballots through November 2026, 2028? Or do you think that it'll cool off? The economy will maybe not be the driving issue it has been for the past 5 years.
So what I'll say is I believe that people will continue to feel like, okay, I want to have I want the government out of my life. The government they're the government. Let me run my life, right? Just leave me alone. Right. Stay out of my life. I think that premise will continue to move forward. I think wanting to be taxed less and I think that'll stick there, and I think there is a growing sentiment among voters that they're starting to expect more value for the dollars that they pay into the state or the government in way of taxes. I think that's going to continue to grow and develop. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, but I do still think it's going to come down to what does the economy look like 10 months from now, right? With everything that's happening at the federal level with tariffs, this is a fundamental shift, and so how that's going to shake out in 10 months is going to be interesting. And frankly, anybody that says that they know how this is going to play out is just wrong. Like I don't know how anybody can. You could be a doctorate. You could have a doctorate in economics, and you still don't know. The overall ramifications of how big of a change we are making is astronomical. It is so big that there is no way anybody can truly know with any certainty the exact what's going to happen.
Right.
And there's so many variables, right? Like, is President Trump truly just using this as a negotiation tactic? Maybe. Is this purely centered on China and trying to shift production? Maybe that's it. And so how big of a transition is that? We don't know. Yeah. And so how anybody who says that they know exactly how this is going to turn out 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or even 10 months from now, that takes a whole lot of arrogance.
Yeah, because you haven't been here before.
Right.
But humans are good at arrogance, If we ever do get to Mars, the astronauts are going to be like, okay, follow me.
Right.
I know where I'm going. It's like, no, we've never been here. No one has. But that's humanity. We're explorers, I guess. So seeing how that shakes out is going to change, you're right, everything. And as we saw last year, the economy defines what people are running on in the elections, what people care about at their kitchen tables. Like, it really is the straw that stirs the drink. So that will be the big thing to check out. Maybe we'll do like an economics podcast if this doesn't work out, because that was really good. Last topic to close us out, and I know it's your favorite, not necessarily your favorite, but it's one you think about a lot. So your entire constitutional amendment to require people to have proof of citizenship to register to vote started really, or came to a coalescence really, with this case of a Chinese student who voted in for president in 2024, admitted he did it. There's been some developments in that case. Do you want to say what developments are? Or do you want me to?
Oh, I'll say it. So first of all, let's start with
this. Go for it.
A year ago, Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson was stating publicly there are no instances of foreign nationals voting in our elections. That was her position. And then in October, it came to light that a foreign national voted in our election, and that ballot counted. And the only way that we ever found out about it was because he came forward, raised his hand, and said, "Hey, by the way, I did this." Right? There was no mechanism in place to determine that. So then in October she changed her tune and said, "Okay, but it only happened once. It's just one." And then just about less than a month ago, it came to light that, well, it's actually 16 people. The fact of the matter is we still don't know. 0, 1, 16. We don't know what that number is because there's no mechanism in place to fully determine that. What we do know is foreign nationals are voting in our elections. That we know that implicitly. Well, so this first individual, it was a U of M student, and he's a foreign national. He's lived here for several years, voted in our election. Ballot counted. When he came forward, he was charged with 2 or 3 felonies as a result of registering and voting in our election. And that trial continued to get pushed back and delayed. And then all of a sudden, last week, he had his hearing finally. And guess what? He didn't show up. So now there's a bench warrant out for his arrest. Yeah. Nobody knows where he's at. Whether he skipped town, we don't know. Maybe he went back to China. Maybe he just forgot. I don't know what the dynamic is. But now there's a bench warrant out for his arrest due to missing his hearing.
And what's a bench warrant? It just basically means cops should bring you in if they find you, basically, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a manhunt underway.
No, it's not like it's a big manhunt. But yeah, there's a warrant for his arrest.
People are on the lookout if he's here. But I don't necessarily think he's here anymore. I know that you kind of think he's probably somewhere else. We don't know. We can't.
We truly don't know. But
we hope he's safe. Like from the beginning, you're like, this has never been about this one person.
Right.
It's never been about what one individual did or what one country's doing. It's about the fact that there's a bug in the software. We just want to squash it.
Well, and I mean, look, there's a loophole in our election system that allows people to vote as non-citizens, and there's nothing preventing it, right? Like whether you believe this student or not, he is saying that he genuinely believed that he was legally allowed to vote. He's saying he genuinely believed that. Not only did he believe that, but in every single one of his classes he would go to, the professors were encouraging everybody to vote. On campus, there was all these get out the vote rallies, and so not only did he believe that he legally could vote, he was being pushed to vote, rightfully so. Not necessarily him, but we should be encouraging people to vote, right? We want to expand the participation of our democratic processes. But this individual is saying he genuinely believed he had the legal right to vote, and so he voted, and nothing prevented him. And as a result of this student who says that he genuinely believed he had the right to vote, was continuously being encouraged to vote, is now facing 2 felony charges. Shouldn't there be guardrails in place to prevent that mistake from happening? That's my belief, and that's why I believe that only U.S. citizens should be able to vote in our elections.
If there's a leak in your water bottle, is it the water's fault for coming out?
Right.
Or is it just physics at a certain point that with enough time and enough pressure, something's going to make it through that gap. So let's close the gap. So it was a little bit of a spike in that old story. We sort of don't know if it'll ever have a conclusion, but we'll keep an eye on it. We'll see what happens. We're not obviously involved in the search. I'm gonna look out my window. That's about all I can do at this point. But I will call you if I see anything shifty. All right, let's go to the final point. I think in the last episode we talked a little bit about what kind of books people should read. I like these being fun. Here's my question for you as we close it out. What's the ideal in your world side dish for a sandwich at lunch? We'll say at lunchtime. Are you a chips, fries, potato salad, macaroni salad, soup? Like, would you call that a side? I'm just like, this will tell the people a lot about you, so be careful.
It really depends on the mood, right? So like, this probably is gonna sound really weird, but for whatever reason, like if I'm working on the farm and I have like I make myself a sandwich, I put my barbecue chips on the sandwich.
Yeah, I love that.
Load it up. Delicious, but
get that crunch. And a lot of people will shy away from doing that with flavored chips like barbecue.
Oh, barbecue chips is where
I think
it's
you're
at,
right.
Man. Barbecue chips.
If you like it without a sandwich, you'll like it on a sandwich.
Yep.
Like, there's really not a big difference.
Yeah. So otherwise,
love that.
I'm more of a meat and potatoes kind of guy. So it's like I don't really care about my sides. I'm going for the meat. So
yeah.
Just give me some meat as a side for my meat, and we're good.
Right. You don't even know they have a side menu at Morton's or whatever. You're just all through it. Well, okay.
Yeah. Anytime,
think about
anytime
barbecue
we
chips
go out
on your sandwich, people.
Anytime we go out to eat, they'll come ask if I want an appetizer. I'm like, can I just order my meat? Like, I don't need an appetizer.
Yeah.
Let me get to the main thing.
I don't need an appetizer. I don't need a soup. I don't need a dessert even. Actually, don't need this water. Can you take me back to the kitchen? I'll cut it myself. All right. Well, thank you as always for your time, sir. We record these on Monday. I know you got a busy week session to look forward to, so enjoy it. You'll be standing up and talking a lot. So have fun, drink tea, and we'll see you at the next one.
All right, man.